मैं इसको टेस्ट कर
ठीक, ये कनेक्टेड है ना?
हाँ वो भी कनेक्टेड है। ये देखो अभी आ रहा है। ये देखो
हम्म, आपके लिंक्डइन में हो रहा है किधर हो रहा है?
लिंक्डइन पे।
लिंक्डइन में आपके क्रैश कभी होता है ये?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us once again. We have already conducted the webinar, and apologies, it was not live streams on the social media. We were facing some sort of glitch in the restream. They were fixing it, but we have conducted the webinar on Zoom. We have the recording of the webinars, and we will share the recording of the webinar. If you are here, we can go through this very quickly, whatever we have discussed today. Ms. Faiza, she was with us. She has gone through the pillar two overcap, basically recap of pillar two, why the pillar two has been implemented. She discussed the example, she discussed the tools, QMD, QDMT, STTR, IIR, and UTPR. The business restructuring, the whole process, in the whole process discuss. The process can be divided in three different categories. These categories can be pre-transfer phase, it can be transfer phase, or it can be post-transfer phase. In the pre-transfer phase, we'll discuss what are the key requirements for the business to enjoy the business restructuring relief. Here we will discuss the transferor, and transferee must be a taxable person or the potential taxable person. In case the transferee, once the business is being transferred to the transferee needs to become a taxable person. In case this business is being transferred to them, the entire business or the independent part of the business is being transferred. There is a commercial sense. All legal formalities are being fulfilled. Then we discuss that the transfer and transfer, they should be a resident person. They should be a P, or they should be a PE of the non-resident person. Non-resident person itself cannot enjoy the business restructuring relief, even there is a transferee, even there is a transferor. Then discuss the transferor and transferee should not be exempt person. It should not be a qualifying free zone person. Both of the parties must have the same financial year ending, and both of the parties are following the same accounting standards. If all these conditions are being settled, can enter into a transaction and they can enjoy the business restructuring relief. So once they are entering into the transaction, then the law requires that the asset or the liabilities, that these are being transferred at the net book value. What is the net book value? Net book value is the cost less accumulated depreciation, and depreciation needs to be collected till the date of the transfer. Then what should the value and consideration? Law is very clear. Law is asking under the 27(1)(a), the value should be the value of shares or ownership interest shall not exceed the net book value of the asset or liability transferred less any other consideration received. This is under the Article 27(a), where the whole or independent part of the business is being transferred, and the lessor and the transferor doesn't ceases to exist. So 27(1)(b), where the entire business is being transferred and transferor ceases to exist, the law requires the value of the shares or equal interest shall not exceed the net book value of the shares or ownership interest surrendered less any other consideration received. The consideration can be in the form of equitable shares, interest, or other type of consideration. This is the requirement for the consideration. So basically, minimum consideration, the maximum cash and other form of consideration can be maximum up to 10%. Cash and other form of consideration can be maximum up to 10%, and shares and equitable interest can be minimum 90%. This we have discussed as well. So this, when am I asking about the shares? Shares can be ordinary shares, it can be redeemable shares, it can be preference shares, or any other document which gives the right to the holder, what right in the share of the profit, right in the liquidation proceeds. It will consider shares that give the authority a right to the holder in the profit or in the liquidation proceeds. This other form of consideration, as I discussed, it should not be more than 10%. More than 10% of what? More than 10% of net assets or liability that is being transferred, or more than 10% of the ownership interest that is being issued by the transferee. So maximum, as I mentioned, cash should be maximum up to 10%, equity should be minimum 90%. Consideration can be paid by the transferee or the person who is holding at least 50% ownership interest in the transferee. In the same way, the consideration can be received by the transferor or the person who is holding at least 50% ownership in the transferor. This was discussed in our webinar. Then discussed there should not be any gain or loss. Without gain and loss, this should be transferred. It should be transferred at the book value. So not any taxable gain or loss. We will discuss this example as well. I will discuss the same example in our coming webinar as well. Unutilized tax losses can be transferred as well, and the transferee will be able to adjust the unutilized tax losses for unlimited period of time based on general rules applicable on the unutilized tax losses. The condition is the transferee is conducting the same or similar business. Then the relief becomes invalid if this is the clawback. If once the business has been transferred within 2 years, this is the post-transfer phase. As discussed in the very beginning, there are 3 phases. 3 phases are pre-transfer phase and post phase. In the pre, there are all eligibility criteria. In the post, we discuss the consideration, mode of the consideration, value of the consideration. Along with this, who can pay the consideration, who can receive the consideration. Once this transaction has been settled, then the post-transfer phase will come. And in the post-transfer phase, law requires that the transferor or the transferee, there should not be any change in the ownership, because the shares of the ownership interest, either the transferor or the transferee sold, transfer, dispose of, non-member qualifying, other than qualifying group member, there should not be any change in. Basically, this is the party A, party B. This is the transferor, this is the transferee. They have received the equitable interest, whatever the equitable interest they have received, not the all equitable interest, only the equitable interest that has been received by the transferor. That equitable interest cannot be further transferred in other than out of the qualifying group. So this is the condition. If this is being transferred, then it will be assumed that the transferor is liable to pay tax on the market value, and the business will not be able to enjoy the business restructuring relief. If they further, their second more condition as well, subsequent transfer of business. If A has transferred the business to B, B the transferee cannot further transfer the business within 2 years from the date of transfer. If this is being transferred, again, clawback clauses will be applicable, and transfer will be liable to pay tax at the market value. It will be assumed that the transaction has been conducted at the market value. So these were the conditions that we'll be again discussing in our coming webinars. Once again, apologies very honestly that we will not be able to live stream it on the social media. We'll try our best to live stream it in all our coming webinars on the social media. But we have the recording, as I mentioned, we'll be sharing the recording on the social media pages of the Crest Cooper, and you will be able to enjoy the recording. Thank you very much, and thank you for being with us. If you have any question, you can approach us directly, you can drop us an email, or you can give us a call. Once again, thank you very much and have a lovely evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.